You ask for a raise. Boss says no. You fold immediately. You negotiate a price. Seller pushes back once. You cave. You try to persuade someone. They object. You apologize and retreat. Meanwhile, an FBI hostage negotiator is on the phone with an armed man who has taken 14 people captive. No leverage, no threats, no manipulation tactics, just words. 90 minutes later, the man walks out with his hands up and everyone goes home alive. Same conversation, same human psychology on the other end of the line. The negotiator didn't win because he was smarter. He didn't win because he had power. He won because he understood something about how humans actually make decisions that most people never figure out. And it works everywhere. Salary negotiations, sales calls, difficult conversations, disagreements with people you love, any situation where two people want different things. I'm about to show you exactly what that something is. By the end of this, you will never lose a negotiation you actually wanted to win. Chapter 1. The listening trap. Here's the mistake that kills most negotiations before they start. Most people think negotiation is about talking, about having the right argument, the right data, the right counteroffer. So they prepare their points, they rehearse their case, they walk in ready to speak. Wrong. Completely wrong. Former FBI lead hostage negotiator Chris Voss spent 24 years talking people off ledges and out of barricades. His number one discovery: the person who talks most in a negotiation loses. Every time, without exception. Here's why. Talking feels like control. It isn't. Talking reveals your position, your desperation, your priorities, your floor. The person listening is extracting intelligence with every sentence you say. By the time you finish making your case, they know exactly where you're vulnerable and exactly how little they need to offer. Voss developed a technique called tactical empathy, not sympathy, not agreeing with the other person, demonstrating that you understand exactly how the situation looks from inside their skull, their fears, their pressures, their constraints. The moment someone feels genuinely understood, their defensive posture drops. The amygdala de-escalates. The rational brain comes back online. Now you're talking to someone who can actually make decisions instead of someone protecting their position. Practical method. Before making any ask, spend the first portion of the conversation only labeling what you observe. It seems like this timeline is creating pressure for you. It sounds like flexibility matters more than price on this one. It looks like you've had frustrating experiences with this before. You're not agreeing, you're not conceding, you're demonstrating perception. The other person almost always responds by either confirming and elaborating or correcting you. Both responses give you information. Both responses reduce their defensiveness. Both responses move you closer to yes. But tactical empathy opens the door. What you do next determines whether you walk through it or get it slammed in your face. Chapter 2. The no paradox. Here's what nobody tells you about negotiation. Yes is worthless. No is gold. Most people spend entire negotiations chasing yes. Yes, I agree. Yes, that works. Yes, you have a deal. They interpret any resistance as failure. They push harder. The other person digs in deeper. Both sides get more entrenched. The deal dies. Voss figured out something counterintuitive from thousands of real negotiations. People are far more comfortable saying no than yes. Yes feels like commitment. Yes feels like a trap. The moment someone says yes, they start looking for an escape route. No feels safe. No feels like control. No feels like they're still protected. So Voss stopped chasing yes. He started designing questions that invited no. Is this a bad time to talk? Have you given up on finding a solution to this problem? Would it be ridiculous to explore this for 10 minutes? Every question is framed so the agreeable answer is no. But the no means yes to the actual thing you want. No, this isn't a bad time. No, I haven't given up. No, it wouldn't be ridiculous. The other person said no 3 times and gave you everything you needed. They feel in control. They feel safe. The conversation continues. Research from Columbia Business School confirms this. Negotiators who gave counterparts more perceived control over the conversation extracted better outcomes for themselves than negotiators who pushed for control directly. The paradox is real. Surrender the appearance of control. Gain the actual outcome. Hit subscribe before you forget. The next chapter is the most powerful one. and the one most people completely misuse. Chapter 3. The anchor and the silence. Two tools. Most people use both wrong. Both are completely decisive. The anchor. Psychologists Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman proved in the 1970s that the first number stated in any negotiation has a disproportionate gravitational effect on every number that follows. The brain anchors to the first figure and adjusts from there. Insufficiently. Always. They ran a study where participants spun a rigged wheel that landed on either 10 or 65. Then they were asked completely unrelated numerical questions. People who spun 65 gave consistently higher estimates than people who spun 10. A random, meaningless number pulled their brain toward it involuntarily. In negotiation, whoever states the first number sets the battlefield. Most people are afraid to go first. They don't want to offend. They don't want to leave money on the table. So they ask what the other person is thinking. Wrong. Go first. Go extreme. Not insultingly extreme. Ambitiously extreme. The other side adjusts from your anchor, not from their original position. You've already won before the back and forth begins. Now the silence. You've made your ask. You've placed the anchor. Now the most important thing you will do in the entire negotiation is nothing. Most people cannot tolerate silence after making an ask. 3 seconds of no response, and they start talking. They fill the silence by walking back their position, by explaining, by softening, by essentially negotiating against themselves before the other person says a single word. Elite negotiators treat silence as an instrument. After making an ask, they close their mouth and they do not open it again until the other person speaks, no matter how long it takes, no matter how uncomfortable it gets. The discomfort you feel in that silence is pressure. Pressure is exactly what you want the other person to feel, not you. The moment you break the silence, you transfer the pressure back to yourself and absorb their cost. Count to 10 in your head after every ask. Minimum. The person who speaks first after an anchor is the person who blinks. Here's the problem though. You can deploy tactical empathy. You can invite no. You can anchor aggressively and hold silence. And you will still lose negotiations if you haven't solved the one problem that sits underneath all of it. Walking away. Or more precisely, knowing your walk-away point before you sit down. Negotiation researchers call this your BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. The best outcome available to you if this particular negotiation fails completely. Here's why it matters. The person with the stronger walk-away position holds all the power in any negotiation. Not the smarter person, not the more experienced person, the person who needs the deal less. Most people walk into negotiations without a defined BATNA, which means they don't know when to walk away, which means they'll accept a bad deal to avoid the discomfort of walking away from any deal. The other side senses this desperation at a subconscious level and adjusts accordingly. Define your BATNA before every significant negotiation. Write it down. Know the exact number or condition below which you stand up and leave. The clarity itself changes your posture, changes your energy, changes how the other person reads you before you've said a single word. To keep it simple, stupid. Listen more than you speak and label what you observe. Invite no instead of chasing yes. Anchor first and anchor aggressively. Hold silence after every ask until the other person breaks. And define your walkaway point before you sit down. You were never a bad negotiator. You were just following social instincts that are the exact opposite of what actually works. Now you know the difference. But here's the thing. Negotiation skill compounds fastest when your memory actually retains what you're learning between practice sessions. Most people consume this kind of content and forget 80% within 48 hours. That's why I made this video breaking down the exact system to remember everything permanently the first time you encounter it. It's almost unfair. Watch it next.